From the neighborhoods of West Grand Boulevard, Motown rose to an empire where black artists finally found a stage strong enough to carry their sound across America. But behind the polished hits, the glamorous television appearances, and the shimmering gowns, something else grew: a whisper, a pattern, a darkness nobody dared speak about out loud. Because one by one, the stars who left Motown didn't just fade, they died. 8 legends, extinguished soon after walking away from the label that made them famous. Some say coincidence. Others say Motown was a machine that loved its stars only while they obeyed. And a few insist something else was at play, a curse born the night Motown's brightest angel collapsed under the spotlight. What follows is not just history. It's a chilling journey through the 8 tragedies that made Detroit whisper, "Nobody leaves Motown and lives to tell the story." 1. If Motown ever had innocence, it lived inside Tammy Terrell. At only 20 years old, she entered Hitsville with a smile bright enough to warm an entire room and a tender voice that blended effortlessly with Marvin Gaye's. Creating duets that felt like love itself, timeless masterpieces like "Ain't No Mountain High Enough," "Your Precious Love," and "You're All I Need to Get By." But the charm she carried hit a storm that Motown never confronted. Her relationship with David Ruffin had turned violent, leaving her bruised both inside and out. She often arrived at rehearsals hiding marks beneath makeup, and insiders whispered that Motown chose silence over protecting her because image mattered more than truth. Everything changed on the 14th of October 1967. While performing with Marvin in Virginia, Tammy suddenly pressed a hand to her head, staggered forward, and collapsed into his arms as the crowd gasped. Doctors diagnosed a malignant brain tumor. She was just 23. For the next 3 years, she slipped in and out of surgeries as Motown quietly released her old recordings, pretending their angel was still alive. Staff members later recalled Berry Gordy forbidding discussions about her condition. When Tammy passed on the 6th of March, 1970, at only 24, Marvin Gaye sang at her funeral, his voice cracked with grief. Her death shattered something inside him forever. Tammy Terrell is interred at Mount Lawn Cemetery in Sharon Hill, Pennsylvania. She is buried under her birth name, Thomasina Winifred Montgomery. 2. Florence Ballard was more than a supreme because she founded the group, chose the name, and delivered the richest voice among them. But once Motown's machinery took over, Florence's dreams soured. Berry Gordy shifted the spotlight to Diana Ross, pushing Florence to the background in photos, recordings, and public appearances. By 1967, she was abruptly fired without dignity, farewell, or explanation, just a quiet payout meant to silence her. From global fame, she plunged into poverty, raising her daughters in a small Detroit home and taking odd jobs to survive. Rumors swirled that she kept a diary filled with financial secrets, hidden deals, and the real story of the Supreme's internal battles. On the 22nd of February 1976, Florence died of cardiac arrest at only 32. In her purse were coins and a faded photo of the original Supremes. The notebook vanished, Motown sent no condolences, and Detroit whispered that Florence didn't die of poverty, she died because she left Motown. Florence Ballard is buried at Detroit Memorial Park East. The cemetery is located in Warren, Michigan, a suburb of Detroit. 3. David Ruffin possessed one of the most unforgettable voices in soul music. As the charismatic force behind the Temptations' "My Girl," he embodied Motown royalty. But offstage, he wrestled with demons, addiction, and an ego that clashed with the label's demands for obedience. In 1968, at the height of his fame, Motown fired him, and people say that from that moment, the curse began to follow him. Ruffin drifted between clubs, battling addiction while insisting Motown owed him millions. Friends said he hinted at secrets powerful enough to shake the entire label and planned a tell-all book exposing the truth. But on the 1st of June 1991, David was found dead in the back of a parked car in Philadelphia. The official cause was listed as a cocaine overdose, yet the details made no sense. He was last seen with 2 unidentified men and hospital files were sealed. He is buried at Woodlawn Cemetery, Detroit, Michigan, the same cemetery that houses many Detroit musical icons. 4. Paul Williams was the backbone of the Temptations, the gentleman member, the choreographer, the arranger, the emotional anchor of the group. Even as illness and alcohol began eroding his strength, he remained determined to fight for the royalties he believed Motown owed him. As his health declined, he quietly prepared a lawsuit, confident he could prove financial discrepancies. But on the 17th of August, 1973, Paul was found dead in an alley behind the 20 Grand Club in Detroit and died from a wound to the head. Officials ruled he took his own life, yet almost nothing matched that conclusion. The gun had no fingerprints. His car doors were locked from the outside. His lawsuit files disappeared overnight. His family never believed the official story, and friends quietly claimed he had uncovered something Motown didn't want exposed. Paul's death became one of the most haunting chapters of the Motown curse. Williams was laid to rest at Lincoln Memorial Cemetery in Clinton Township, Michigan. 5. Before Diana Ross, before the Supremes, Mary Wells was Motown's first female superstar. My Guy turned her into America's sweetheart, but she was bound by a restrictive contract she signed at only 17. When she confronted Berry Gordy and demanded fair compensation, he refused, and Mary became the first major artist to walk away from Motown. But the moment she left, radio stations fell silent. Labels backed away. Interviews were mysteriously canceled. She spent years trying to recover the royalties she believed she was owed, but lawyers repeatedly dropped her cases without explanation. When throat cancer struck, she lost the ability to speak, forced to communicate through written notes. Mary Wells died on the 26th of July 1992, at only 49. She was cremated, and her ashes are interred in a Womack family crypt at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Glendale, California. 6. Eddie Kendricks possessed the purest falsetto in soul, a voice that floated through classics like Just My Imagination with heartbreaking beauty. But Eddie also questioned Motown's financial transparency, demanding clarity on bookkeeping practices. When tensions escalated, he left the Temptations in 1971, and trouble seemed to follow from that day on. Financial issues piled up, tax problems surfaced, and he repeatedly said he felt watched. According to friends, Eddie often warned, "Motown never lets anyone leave whole." In 1992, the same year Mary Wells passed, Eddie died of lung cancer, but not before working on a memoir titled Behind the Temptation, which he claimed would reveal the velvet prison behind the fame. At his funeral, when Berry Gordy entered, mourners booed until he turned and left. Kendricks was buried in his hometown at Elmwood Cemetery, Birmingham, Alabama, where admirers continue to leave flowers at his gravesite. 7. Tammy Terrell's death broke Marvin Gaye's spirit in a way no one could mend. He spiraled into depression, drugs, and deep emotional turmoil, pouring his anguish into the revolutionary album, What's Going On? The record was a masterpiece, but it rebelled against Motown's formula, and Marvin soon found himself at war with the label. By 1981, he walked away entirely, convinced Motown would never forgive his defiance. Marvin often told friends he felt haunted and followed, like a shadow trailed him everywhere he went. His life unraveled until the 1st of April 1984, when he was shot by his father just one day shy of his 45th birthday. The world mourned a musical prophet, but in Detroit, whispers grew darker. Some said the tragedy was a family matter. Others believed Marvin had been spiraling toward doom ever since Tammy collapsed years earlier. But the old-timers murmured the curse had simply found its next victim. He was cremated, and his ashes were scattered into the Pacific Ocean. 8. Shorty Long was a musical genius, writing, producing, arranging, and performing with raw talent that deserved more recognition than Motown ever gave him. He openly complained about favoritism within the label and threatened to take his music elsewhere. But before he had the chance, tragedy struck. On the 29th of June 1969, Shorty went on a nighttime fishing trip that ended in terror. His boat capsized and his body was discovered days later with bruises that didn't match the official story. The police report raised more questions than answers, and then the case file quietly disappeared. Motown made no public statement. His final unreleased track also vanished. He is buried in the Shadow Lawn Memorial Park in Birmingham, Alabama. Call it the price of crossing the most powerful music empire of its era. But the truth is chilling. Every major star who left Motown died tragically not decades later, but soon after leaving. Not peacefully, but violently, mysteriously, or heartbreakingly alone. Do you believe the Motown curse is real? Leave your comment below, and don't forget to subscribe, because next time we go even deeper into the shadows behind America's greatest music empire.